And I think recruiting at every level, if you can't recruit, you can't win. You have to learn how to recruit.
I will not go below 30 unless the player's an absolute stud as far as work ethic.
We'll congratulate each other and chug some beers if somebody wins a national championship.
If they did, don't you think I'd have 2 championships by now? I might have 3.
Now, I know Cash uses those booster gifts. He's always promising cash and women, right?
I've only been caught twice. I've only been caught twice. That's it.
Welcome, folks, to another This, That, and the Other. I'm your host, Majique, and this is Season 3, Episode 7, if I remember correctly. Adam is not going to be with us tonight. He did mention that the recent scholarship update or rollout as part of the new or part of the overall recent rollout of updates has been reversed, and he's doing some more work on that. So hopefully all that will get straightened out and we'll get it back up and running as far as what scholarships mean to the recruits when they get yanked and when they get offered. Some fine tuning going on there. But anyway, tonight's show, we plan to do a tutorial on how to find your players that have been drafted. We'll also have a discussion regarding the impact of recruiting and how recruits feel your recruiting effort, because that is what it's all about. It's what their impression is on how much you want them to come play for you. Now, we do have Don, who's in the back room here. Let's see. He doesn't appear to have a microphone or camera. So, Don, you can just chat with me on the chat stream here if you like and get you on if you have any questions. If not, no worries. Well, thanks for tuning in anyway, live, that is. So let's go ahead and get to the drafted players. Oh, let's see. We've got a private chat. I can only type. Okay, Don, no worries, brother. Well, let's go ahead and get to the recruiting. The drafting of players into the NFL. Now, granted, right now this game doesn't have a what's the word I'm looking for? An extension or follow-on that ties into the NFL. That would be great if you could actually recruit a player out of high school and have him on your NFL team if you decided to play the NFL version of this, which that would be cool if it was tied in with recruiting and graduating the seniors, etc. Anyway, there is a method to seeing those recruits and seeing how they develop and then seeing who they get drafted by. So you as a coach, do get to see the fruits of your labor, if you will. So let's go ahead and take a look at that tutorial video right quick. Hi, welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to share with you how you can see who was drafted to the pros from your D1A and sometimes your D1AA team. The easiest way to do this is, of course, let's go look at D1A conferences, and we'll just go up to any D1A conference, the Big 12 in this case. Let's pick Kansas State. So you click on Kansas State, and you have the History tab. When you click on the History tab, there'll be a drop-down box that offers you 3 options. And this one in general, that's just a generic one. The other 3 are the Stats 4, and it will display the stats for that team for that season. Then you have the Stats Against, which would be, of course, your defense against your team for that season. And then here's where you can see who was drafted to the pros. Let's say Kansas State is your team from this particular team. And it shows that in the first round, overall, there's been 12 first-round selections for this team, all the way down to the 7th round. Well, let's see if you want to see round 1 players that were picked. You simply click on round 1 and it'll display who those round 1 players were and when those selections occurred. You can see on the left you have your seasons, and then the pick along with the overall, the team that drafted them, the year the player was drafted after a senior year, and the position. So that's great for the individual team. But what if you want to see the draft results for a particular season for all the teams? Simply go to the Stats tab, down to Draft Results, and when you click it, now you have drop downs for the season. Let's go to season 170, and it'll show you all the first round picks in season 170 from all the schools to all the NFL teams. In this case, the Tennessee Titans picked Donald Mack, quarterback from Arizona State, as the very first pick of that year's draft. And there's a little blurb about the individual as well. And I think the blurb is only good for the first 2 rounds, where they've got a little synopsis. Yep. And then the 3rd round, it just lists the individual players. So you can see that in the first pick of the 3rd round, Tennessee again drafted, this time Andrew Zuniga, senior defensive lineman from UTEP. And that's how you can tell who was drafted to the pros from your team or any other. Hope you've enjoyed it. Well, as with all the tutorials, I know some of the old hats understand that and know that's there and know how to use it and check it out. But some of the newer players, it's just another aspect of what if sports that you may not be familiar with or may not be aware even exists. So hopefully you've learned something, and it's just neat to see who gets drafted by the pros. All right, so much for that. One of the topics tonight on the forums, it's actually kind of gotten pretty interesting, and that the whole thing is about recruits, talking about the effort, and can you knock a sim off, a school off of a recruit by just using assistant coach home visits versus campus visits? Do you have to use campus visits? How can these sim schools be knocked off of a recruit? Well, as I've always said, we have to understand first and foremost, the recruit does not see your budget. The recruit does not know how much money you're spending to recruit him. The recruit has no idea in comparison from one school to another regarding who is spending the most money. The recruit doesn't care about money. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's the truth. All the recruit cares about is effort. How much effort, how much love are you showing this recruit in order to sway him to go to school at your school, to come to your program? How are you recruiting that recruit to show him that effort? Those are some of the things that he looks for, and the effort that we're talking about comes via the phone calls from the head coach and assistant coach, the letters that you send, the promised playing time, the promised starts, your assistant coach scout, head coach home visit, assistant coach home visit, and of course, the ever popular campus visit. Now, each of these have a cost associated with them. And of course, the further away the recruit is, the more those items cost for that school. But again, the cost portion is just for the coach's fundamental purpose of budgeting his recruiting. The recruit doesn't care. All he cares about is the effort. So for instance, let's use this effort in, let's say, an example we'll say is a pound of force or a pound of effort. And that pound of effort equals an assistant coach scouting visit. So you may have 2 pounds of effort correlate to a head coach scouting visit. 4 pounds of effort may be the assistant coach home visit. 6 pounds of effort may be the head coach home visit, and 10 pounds of effort may be a campus visit. So if we use that, we could see quite easily that if you send a campus visit to a recruit and I send an AC scout to a recruit, he's going to feel 9 pounds of more effort from the team that sent him the campus visit versus a team that just sent the assistant coach visit or a coach scout. So if we look at it like that, we can then begin to see that it is, in fact, more important for us as recruiters to show the recruit the maximum love we can, the maximum effort that we can for that particular cycle or for that particular recruit. When it comes to sim AIs, these schools, from what I've been told, initially dump a large portion of their budget on recruits, and they just shotgun. There's no rhyme or reason for it. That's why when the recruiting cycle begins, you can see that quite a few recruits are in fact already leaning toward 1, 2, or 3 sim AI schools. And in some instances, a recruit will actually be favoring a human coach team before the very first cycle ever begins. And that's simply because throughout the prior season, the assistant coach is going out and scouting, usually about 4 players. Well, it just so happens that this particular recruit that your AC scouted likes your school. So that little bit of effort resulted in him being green for you. What we don't know is how many of the 4 recruits are actually green if those 4 recruits have sim AIs who have dumped money on them and now they're favoring them. Whereas if a sim AI had not dumped any money on the recruit that your assistant coach scouted, he may be green for you. But we don't know because the sim AIs have got him covered up with their initial recruiting effort before the human recruiting cycle actually starts. So how do we go about knocking off a sim AI that is on a particular recruit that you want, or 2 or 3? I'm not a believer in the position out there that it's harder to knock 1 sim school off of a recruit than it is to knock 3 off the recruit. And again, I think it's all about effort. I don't believe that if a single school is on a recruit, they have put more effort on that recruit than anybody else. I think it's just a result of the random shotgun that takes place when recruiting begins, and that they just happen to put the prerequisite amount of money on the recruit and nobody else from a sim AI school did. So that's why they're on that recruit by themselves. But to knock off a sim, it depends on what level you are. It has a lot to do with your ability to understand how the sims work. You want to knock off a sim as soon as possible. They work in a methodical manner, and that each recruiting cycle, they continue to put forth some effort. That secret amount, that secret love that they put forth is unknown to the coaches doing the recruiting. I don't know what that formula is. I don't know what the impact of it is, but I do know it exists because I've had a recruit yellow with the sim and got the old message that, yeah, I'm favoring your school over this guy. And lo and behold, I turn around a couple cycles later and he's red to me because he's favoring that sim school that I was in a battle with, which tells me that they continue to recruit. So what does it take? Again, it varies. If you're going to send out assistant coach visits versus campus visits for the recruit, keep that effort identifier that I put forth earlier in mind, because an assistant coach home visit, if that's 4 pounds, and these are in no way, shape, or form meant to be hard and fast rules, and a campus visit is 10 pounds, and the theory is you have to send at least 3 campus visits to knock off a sim. Well, that's 30 pounds of effort, which means that you would have to send at least 8 assistant coach visits to garner 32 pounds of effort. And again, the recruit does not care if it's a home visit, if it's a scouting visit. All he knows is effort. And the way to maximize your effort, as I said earlier on, is with campus visits. So send those campus visits if you want to go ahead and get that sim AI knocked off the recruit as quickly as possible. And experiment, play around with what works best for you, because again, there is no secret formula that I'm aware of that is a hard and fast rule on what it takes to knock off a sim AI from a recruit. I generally send a variety of campus visits if I want to knock off a sim, and it generally works. Now, having said all that, there is discussion out there that Lawrence is working on, Adam Lawrence, about the effort for the scholarships and what that perception is to the particular recruit. He said initially that it has some value now because in the past it did not. From my trials and experiments, I didn't really detect a huge amount of love being offered to the recruit with the scholarship offer. They didn't even respond. I've gotten better results by offering a phone call or even sending letters. So that's being worked, and he will post on the forums when that gets straightened out and when it gets updated. And once it's released, there'll be a full explanation of how it all works and what you can all expect when you see that. So all right, let's see. I got some chat information. He also said earlier you put the scholarship offer on the more impact it has. Correct. And that's what I was just talking about. So there's another wrinkle to it. Absolutely. And there's going to be more. Trust me, there's going to be more. And our buddy has joined the show. I'll get Daryl on here and see what jhunterz has to say. What do you say there, big man? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. I ain't got nothing to say. Not worth listening to anyway.
That's a first.
Everybody thinks I'm better than I am anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sure you got a boring evening because recruiting day 1 has started and you've already got your class signed, right?
Negative. Actually, I got 3 teams recruiting right now, so.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that tends to be a bit convoluted. How do you handle that? I mean, let's get into that. I know that at one point when I was recruiting 2 separate teams, I've got my worksheets or spreadsheets or whatever you want to call that I use to kind of help me, because I'm old, keep track of what's going on. But it not only was it a bit confusing from time to time, but it was quite laborious in, sitting down and taking the effort to do that. And you're talking about having 3 teams going on right now. Well, is there a secret? What do you do to make that all work for you?
No, not at all. This is actually one of the first I've done it because of actually I didn't usually do more than 2 at a time, and even then it was a little bit too much for me. But then the more I've chatted with Husker Fan 26 and Grunt Boy and J9 and all them, Ray, and we're all in a chat group together, and they've kept talking me into getting into different worlds, and so I've been joining these worlds and trying to catch up with them where they're at and everything, and some of them have kind of crossed over to the other ones. So I've dropped a couple of teams, but I'm looking to drop probably a couple of more, just simply for the fact that, well, actually, when I say I've got 3 going on right now, one's I'm trying to finish up in, and the other 2 just started. So
Yeah.
I'm at the tail end. I've only got 1 left to sign in one world, and then the other 2 just, of course, started. So, but yeah, I don't. It's actually recruiting's not as bad because you've got enough time to get everything kind of lined up how you want, and as long as things work out. Of course, sleeping is a little difficult, but other than that, as far as it's game planning is what gets me, because I'll forget when a certain game's coming up, or that you got to really plan for, or and oh crap, I forgot to game plan for that one. Or so yeah, that's where it's getting me. I mean, recruiting, I don't know why, but I catch it a little bit better because it slows down at that time. Other than like I said, I'd be a proponent for changing it back to 6 hours myself. I don't, the 3 hours. It's tough, and I got a job just like everybody else, and I've got to work, and so I try and sneak in and get on the computer. Luckily enough, I'm a manager, so I can get away with it myself. I don't I ain't got anybody standing over my shoulder, but at the same time, it makes it difficult at times, if the job does pull you away. But so I wouldn't mind switching back to 6 hours and getting a little bit of sleep here and there. So. But
yeah, that's the one downside to being a lover of the recruiting portion of this game is it really wears on you when it comes to getting your rest. And I find myself even driving to work when I wasn't teleworking. How did I get to work? Because the whole way there, I was thinking about, well, what if this guy goes after this particular recruit? Do I have a backup? And I'm visualizing my recruiting order in preference for the particular recruits, and it gets hectic. And like Wire Don said, the first cycle of active recruiting, after that 24-hour period, when you get those initial results back and you're about to enter that second cycle, I'm in the same boat with him. That can be hectic because you've got your mass recruiting effort responding, and now you've got to sort through it. And then you've got a couple of recruits that are on the side of they just absolutely suck. So that's a no biggie. You can those away. And then you've got a bunch that you're interested in, but there's other schools on them. You didn't recruit enough to knock off a sim AI if it's somebody you were going after even before you got the scouting results back. So that first cycle, that's when you get your major work, and then it kind of pairs off after that and kind of thins out a little bit because by a short time, hopefully you've got your recruits identified and you know what your process is to go about getting those guys. We've had Shannon Holdaway. He's joined the studio. He's going to be on live with us. And I mention that because anytime he joins the show, the average IQ drops for everybody. So get Shannon on.
Thanks, buddy.
If I didn't
voted support.
If I didn't love him like a brother, I wouldn't give him shit.
Yeah. I feel the love. I think that's love that I feel. I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. It's effort. We were talking earlier about recruiting effort versus the recruiting money. So it's the effort that you're feeling there. It's all that 1 pound of effort for that recruit. So how are you doing out there in Virginia?
I'm doing good, man. How about you guys?
We're doing good. Daryl and I are just sitting here chatting about the recruiting cycle, and he said right now he's got 3 involved that he's engaged in and going pretty wired for him. He's getting a lot of done. I know you and I have got some recruiting going on. I believe it's in Hayes. And you've got a couple guys I'm going to sneak in and nab from you there to the end. So you better save some money.
That's fine. Hey, you might as well.
They're in your backyard.
I mean,
yeah.
Why should you be the only one? Everybody else does too.
They're about 2 miles from your house, and I'm about 1,000 away, so I got a good shot.
Yeah, hey, I'm in Hayes too. Do I need to come after some guys, or
come on, Daryl? Come on, buddy. Hey, just come over to my house, and you can just use my car to go and recruit them. I mean, don't even bring your own car.
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, I got one kid camped in the backyard, and Menlo is coming all the way to Texas and thinks they're going to take all those recruits, man. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah, and I see a lot of that in the initial recruiting period. That kind of dovetails into what we were talking about. In that first cycle or two, or maybe you won't see it the first 1 or 2, but you'll see it in the third where somebody's kind of putting a toe in the water to test. Is he, did he get him green with a phone call? Let me just see what it'll take to get him yellow for me and the other guy, or green for me. And, sometimes you just got to throw a brick in the road and make him bump up a little bit, because bottom line is he's in my backyard and you're 1,000 miles away.
I keep wanting to build a fence around my state. And the problem is everybody else keeps driving 18-wheelers through it. if it's not Big Papa or Hoof Cats or Majique, at the upper levels, it's Mike, MFN
Down at
Myers
D3.
or Golden Cats. I mean, I swear to God, Golden Cats is giving out Lamborghinis at D3. I don't know what kind of budget he's got. I do not understand it. I mean, you look up and it's like the top 10 recruits in every position, Golden Cats, Mike Myers, Golden Cats, Mike Myers, Mike Myers. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, old Wire Don, he's in the green room, as we call it. He doesn't have the voice. He says he can't talk or has the video, so he's there, but he can see us and hear us. And he said, yeah, old Golden Cats is all over the place. He's everywhere. Yeah. And that's, that's true from some of the guys that have been doing this for a long time. They know what minimal effort it takes, in what fashion or what combination, to get a recruit interested in you, especially if that school is, winning national championships, or
it makes it even harder.
Getting, and here's the thing: a lot of people don't understand is when it comes to vision. Granted, there's a gap between those schools that are constantly going deep into playoff every year. They've got that increased vision, and those schools that barely make the playoff or get booted in the first round or two.
Right.
There's a distinct group of recruits in that area that are definitely, let's use D2 for example, the cream of the crop in D2, but they still suck bad enough that D1A is really not interested in them.
Right.
And it's those guys that get the shotgun target from the upper coaches at the upper schools and get them to turn green for them. So not only do the other schools not have a shot at them because they're out of their vision, but those coaches who have those recruits in their vision are already behind the 8 ball because they didn't employ the same type of recruiting strategy.
And every once in a while, I you'd think as many seasons as I have under my belt and as many teams as I'm managing, which is probably part of the problem. I probably have too many teams right now. I don't know how the guys that carry 10 teams or 11 teams do it. I just don't know. Because I think I have 8, and sometimes I just get completely confused about what I'm supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you have 2 worlds, like right now, Camp and is it Hayes are both recruiting simultaneously right now.
Yeah, I believe so.
That just makes, because I'm thinking, okay, I've got that running back. And then I go back and look, I don't even have a running back, and you're like, what was I thinking, But like tonight, just that's what I actually was doing before I got on here was I was trying to check the last cycle, and I realized that I'm at a D3 team camp, and there's a very high player that's 50 miles from my front door, and I have dropped too much money. I'm embarrassed to tell you at this point how much money I've dropped on that player, and I just realized they're being recruited by D1AA.
Yeah, been there, done that.
3 Sims, and I'm like, what was I thinking? How did I miss that? I mean, I just completely missed it. I just saw very high. I'm like, oh, great, and then then I didn't even notice. I'm like, oh,
yeah. It's all part of that task saturation that we were talking about when you've got a major number of teams, and Daryl's the expert. He's got 3 going right now. He's the expert.
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't pull that off. What level?
Well, I was the same way. I thought I had 2 wide receivers on one of them, and I went back and looked. I'm like, where's the wide receivers at? I'm like, crap, that's my other team. I'm like, well, I guess I need a wide receiver. So, it's a scramble at times.
Yeah, I don't know. What levels are they?
They're both 1AA.
Gotcha. And that's
one's 1A and 2 are 1AA.
See, 1AA is such a tricky place to recruit too. I mean,
yeah.
I've always said 1AA is the hardest to recruit, in my opinion, just simply for the fact that you get on there and you're trying to find that fine line between getting a good player and not too good of a player, because 1A's, even if they're not on them from the start, if they don't get what they're after, then they're coming after, they're going to drop down and get your guy. So
late cycle backups.
Yeah, it's definitely the hardest, and you can have a great recruit going, then all of a sudden you wake up the day of signings and, you just, lost 3 of them to a 1A team that, figured out that, hey, he wasn't going to win his battle. So, he's going to come and, spoil your parade as well.
One.
Yeah, and it's the closest thing to HD recruiting. I don't know if you guys have played HD or not, but
Yeah.
It's close. It's similar in the bad things that can happen to you, especially in worlds that aren't full. In HD, you can just get brutalized on the last cycle, and there's no way you can get players. I mean, there's just no way in HD to make that up. And in GD, at least there's a little bit of chance of making that up if you've saved any money at all.
Yeah.
You can always do that magic last day recruiting with phone calls and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it makes you really nervous. 1AA is just, I was always so nervous recruiting at 1AA.
Well, and that's what
Especially
I've wondered.
if you're a good team.
Yes.
And that's what I've wondered as far as I've not played a lot of 1A until now. Like I said, the group I'm with have got me started playing it some. But whenever I moved up there, I'm like going, you're lucky to see an undecided anywhere, unless it is a 1AA guy. And so I'm like, do they need to increase maybe some undecideds? Because you're either, you got to knock Sims off, or you got to go down and steal from 1AA to, make up for the money you got to overspend on other ones. So I'm like, does that need to be looked at, or is it just me because I don't recruit at that level that often? Or, there's, like you said, there's no real good opportunities of saving some money, because you got to battle a sim or you got to battle a human. So trying to, that's why I've kind of started dabbling in it to kind of learn, because these guys are wanting to go and get all in the same conference, kind of like, the super conferences before. And so we're going to try that. And I'm like going, these guys got way more 1A experience than I've got. I'm going to get killed, So I've started moving up a couple of teams just to try and, do some, recruiting here and there to kind of get an idea of what I'm up against, So yeah, I'm like, of course, I don't know. I picked the smartest team in the world by picking Texas A&M, being scrunched between Texas and Oklahoma either. But
are both of them occupied?
Oh yeah,
coaches.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
It
was interesting.
That's almost like being Texas Tech out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. We're making it. As I say, I've got one last recruit. I'm at the Texas A&M's the school I'm recruiting at. I got one last, and I'm battling with Texas. So, well, he was on him, and I jumped on him at the end. So,
well, good luck, man.
Hopefully, we got enough money.
Talk about swimming upstream. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. I'm kind of a hard-headed guy. I want the elites around me to know that you might get most of the guys you want, but you're not going to get everybody. I am here, and I'm going to take a couple here and there. So I'm just not going to let them have everybody. I had to the first season. This is the second season I'm there. So, and now I got a little bit of bowl money and all that to battle with. Last season, I was the walking mat. So
yeah, I had a coach. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's kind of like everybody talks about somebody taking D1A Hawaii. And that's like the holy grail of GD, right? Anybody can pull that off.
No desire here.
Yeah, they need to rename the game after them, or make a new world and name it after them, right? That should be the contest. Whoever can take Hawaii and win a national championship with it, we're going to name the next world after you, right?
Yeah,
wow.
That's one thing that would be nice.
Schumacher has done it a couple times, he's taken them in a few worlds that I've seen, but. Yeah, I have no desire to try that.
No.
We got old Billy joining us. He made it on the show. How are you, Billy?
What's happening?
Good to see you. We're just talking recruiting and the difficulties of recruiting and the joys of recruiting and the heartbreak of recruiting. So it's all about recruiting. And, we were talking about those D1A recruiting efforts and issues with everything that's tough about D1AA when D1A is involved, dropping down and getting your recruits. There is a flip side that if you're wise and you save money at D1AA, you can get some really good recruits late in the recruiting cycle, because some of those backups and some of those third tier for D1A coaches, they fill their recruiting allotment and they've got all their scholarships accounted for. Some of those recruits become easy pickings if you've got a lot of money left and you've been patient. But, that's the tough thing to do. And that's the tough thing to do if you're in the same area with a bunch of other D1 AA schools that are better than you. And, Daryl was talking about letting the elites know that he's there and it's not going to be easy. There was a coach I spoke with who I promised I wouldn't reveal his name because of his tactic that he said, he didn't mind me sharing. And that's when it comes to being in a bed of other elites, like wedged between your Oklahoma and your Texas, or God forbid up there around Notre Dame and Penn State and Ohio State. He says he will sacrifice one, sometimes 2 seasons to just battle the elites and take hits just so that his elites in that area know that he's there. And he counts it as an investment in future recruiting so that when he employs his early strategy to get recruits leaning to him, the elites don't enter into the battle unless they're really super talented recruits. And he says it's been working, and I can't say anything to disagree. It looks like it's been working real well for him. So, it's just one of those nuggets of wisdom that if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
Billy, where are you at nowadays in recruiting? You got any recruiting going on right now?
Yeah, I'm in Hayes, which is kind of I'm in D1A. I'm in the middle of it right now, which kind of sucks. Is there's only 18 people in the world, and it's like,
ooh,
that was probably
that's a lot of that's a lot of sim AIs.
And I kind of had built a team for like a run like this year and next year, and it kind of feels a little hollow. Not that I'm going to win, but that the world is so barren.
Yeah, it can be tough. When you've got what makes a barren, as you called it, a barren world even tougher for recruiting is that it tends to allow some of the stronger schools to reach further in their recruiting distance because they know that anybody else at a great distance is unlikely to battle them if they get on the recruit early. Once they knock off a recruit that's 1,000 miles away from everybody, like somebody over in Hawaii, for instance, who's going to venture that far to enter into a battle when there may be some other recruits nearby? Whereas a world that's more populated, that speaks to battles galore. You're going to have a coach in your backyard no matter where you're at, versus when you're in a world where they're barren.
People in check.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, you've got so many recruits that are on Sim's favor that there is no undecided to be had cheap. There is no recruit period to be had cheap. You're either going to battle or you're going to get the undecided that's at the bottom of the barrel and not worth having.
Yeah. Neither of you guys are in my thing, huh?
I'm in Hayes, but not at D1A.
Yeah, I'm in 1 AA in Hayes.
I avoid D1A like the plague.
Yeah, it's like you guys talked about, it is kind of weird, how, you don't really have that. I mean, I don't do D3, but, very rarely will a D1A team pluck a D2, recruit, even for the people with the biggest vision, with the best vision. But, here it's commonplace. And, which one of y'all are in D1A at Hayes right now?
I'm in 1 AA.
Right. And what's your team?
I'm at Dartmouth in Hayes.
Oh, okay. Herculoids.
Yep.
All right. I'm looking at it right now.
Uh-oh. Now I'm worried.
Wait, I ain't going all the way up there.
Good, you're far away.
You're in New Hampshire. I'm in Louisiana. So
Oh yeah, that's a little step.
yeah, but and right now I'm trying to wait out some of the Texas schools.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for, like, Texas A&M probably needs 2 or 3 defensive backs. He hadn't recruited one yet.
Two.
That's
So it kind of, and obviously there's no undecideds, so you can't really get anybody cheap. But there's a few people I'd like to go after, but I'm kind of holding back because, just to wait and see what they do.
exactly what they feel and what they don't. Yeah, and it can, as Daryl was talking about earlier, signing the wrong guy or not signing the guy that you need for your roster. That's something I did at Valdosta years ago. I had 2 or 3 different worlds with Valdosta, and on one of them it was a trips team, and on the other one it was a wishbone team. And I was recruiting running backs galore for my trips team and not a single wide receiver. So, it was one of those situations where about it was probably start of the second day when I realized, why have I got so many wide receivers on this Notre Dame offense? What the hell am I doing? And by then, it was too late for any type of decent correction because D1AAs that were nipping at some of the better quality players that were up there. And then, of course, all the undecideds were gone, and I had to battle. And Florida had been purged by all the teams down in Florida for D1AA. So, yeah, it can be a murderer's row if you're not doing it right from the get-go. And like Don mentioned earlier, he said it's just a matter of that first cycle being the most hectic. And that's where you have to double check, cross those T's, dot those I's. That's the building block of your entire recruiting. I think that first cycle can actually be more important than setting up for the start of recruiting. Because, with the start of recruiting, before the recruiting ever starts, you can make your adjustments. You can go back and rethink things. Once that first cycle hits, you're pretty much committed.
Right.
You've got your ideology down, you've got your plan down, and now it's just a matter of working your way through the hedgerows to figure out which recruit you're going to focus on, because you got someone like Billy here that's got half the recruits in your area tabbed already. Guys, I tell you what, it's something that I do, the little tutorials, and I ran one earlier before most of you got on here. What I'm going to do is run it again so that y'all can see it without having to go to the video after the fact. Something that I do to teach folks or show folks different things that they may or may not know about. And I want your 3 inputs. And Don, you're on here as well. You can always comment in the chat session. Tell me if you knew about this, if you use it, do you find it valuable, and what your thoughts are on taking this to the next level. And you know what I mean. Hi, welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to share with you how you can see who was drafted to the pros from your D1A and sometimes your D1AA team. The easiest way to do this is, of course, let's go look at D1A conferences, and we'll just go up to any D1A conference, the Big 12 in this case. Let's pick Kansas State. So you click on Kansas State, and you have the History tab. When you click on the History tab, there'll be a drop-down box that offers you 3 options. And this one in general, that's just a generic one. The other 3 are the Stats 4, and it will display the stats for that team for that season. Then you have the stats against, which would be, of course, your defense against your team for that season. And then here's where you can see who was drafted to the pros. Let's say Kansas State is your team from this particular team. And it shows that in the first round, overall, there's been 12 first-round selections for this team, all the way down to the 7th round. Well, let's see if you want to see round 1 players that were picked. You simply click on round 1, and it'll display who those round 1 players were and when those selections occurred. You can see on the left you have your seasons, and then the pick along with the overall, the team that drafted them, the year the player was drafted after a senior year, and the position. So that's great for the individual team. But what if you want to see the draft results for a particular season for all the teams? Simply go to the Stats tab, down to Draft Results, and when you click it, now you have drop downs for the season. Let's go to season 170, and it'll show you all the first round picks in season 170 from all the schools to all the NFL teams. In this case, the Tennessee Titans picked Donald Mack, quarterback from Arizona State, as the very first pick of that year's draft. And there's a little blurb about the individual as well. And I think the blurb is only good for the first 2 rounds, where they've got a little synopsis. Yep. And then the 3rd round, it just lists the individual players. So you can see that in the first pick of the 3rd round, Tennessee again drafted, this time Andrew Zuniga, senior defensive lineman from UTEP. And that's how you can tell who was drafted to the pros from your team or any other. Hope you've enjoyed it. So, do you guys know about that?
Yep. I played around with it. I've seen that.
Yeah, I knew the overall draft one, but I didn't know about the individual team one where you go on there.
Mm-hmm. And Shannon don't care because he doesn't play D1AA, so it don't matter. Or D1A rather. Yeah.
I'll leave that for the big boys. Okay, I'll just play around down here in the lower level.
I think it would be cool to have the follow on, have a What If Sports GD Pro version that is an extension of what we have here, to where they have similar worlds, for lack of a better term. And you get to see that player that you recruited out of high school work his way through your program and then go on to the pros, and you get to see him play there for, the entirety of his career, and you can track him and stuff. I think that would be, how neat would it be to actually recruit a kid out of high school and watch him, get that Super Bowl MVP.
It would be cool.
That would be cool to see. So maybe I can pay somebody a couple $1 million to come up with that game and sell it to What If Sports. What do you think?
Well,
start taking handouts.
Somebody's got a lot of time on his hands now. They can do that.
Who's that?
Les
Who's
Miles.
that? Yeah.
Les Miles.
Yeah. Well, I've been told I'm corny from time to time, but follow me on this one. Talk about short tenures at schools. 2 guys, one named Miles and one named Long. And they were there for a short time. And Arkansas was glad to get rid of Jeff Long. Let me just say that.
I had heard grumblings about this. I'm about 70 miles from the campus, and this is LSU town here. And I'd heard some stuff. I heard it. I didn't really hear what it was, but I heard it was going to be really bad. And
yeah,
I don't know what's worse, him or the administration covering it up.
Right. Yeah. And carrying on with LSU and protecting the brand and keeping their school out of the public eye in a bad way. you know, there's a lot to be said for loyalty, but there's a lot to be said for doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, but do you
And
guys
none of
honestly
that was.
think that
Yeah, I didn't mean to
everybody
get
out
off on a
there
tangent,
is
but I just
pure as the driven snow?
No.
Or do you
No.
think that the only teams that aren't cheating are the ones that are at the bottom of their conferences?
absolutely they all do it.
Yeah,
Except maybe
there's
Vanderbilt.
They all do
I don't
it.
know if Vanderbilt does because they suck so bad. I don't know that they actually are cheating.
Probably not. That's funny.
you know, I'm sure that there's a little bit of under the table financial opportunities at every institution in some way, shape, or form. And there's other ways to incentivize coming to that school. The problem is, you know, you're dealing with kids. You're dealing with, you know, 18-year-olds, sometimes 17-year-olds. And let's face it, when it comes to keeping your mouth shut, that's not the target group that you want to
No.
pull into bed with you, like no pun intended, and hold a secret. I mean, these guys, especially in today's media savvy youth, you know, it's all over the place. You know, why are you driving a nice new Camaro? You know, your mom's broke
Right.
and your dad's in jail and you got this nice Camaro. So, you know, it can be a situation where there's a lot more going on that we know about. And it's just a matter of one kid saying the wrong thing at the wrong time in the wrong place. So we got somebody popped on here with the ID of the farm, and he says, hello. Well, hello back to you, brother.
I actually feel dirty.
We got some kind of nasty feedback.
I recruited a kid who is from my rival high school. I almost threw up in my mouth.
Yeah, been there and done that. I took over a team. I took over a team that had their star running back from my rival high school, and I rode him like a horse. Yeah,
But one thing,
he did well.
kind of back on point. One thing that I think it's been mentioned in one of these threads or that app where we all chat on and put suggestions. Because people do it anyway, and I think someone made the argument, "Yeah, you shouldn't do this because you make it too easy." Is on the site, put a drop-down box, and you can see. All right, let's see. You know, for example, I'm looking to see what Texas A&M is doing. Okay, I want to see the people that Texas A&M is on. So there's a drop box, and I could pull any school, and it shows me everyone that Texas A&M is on. Instead of me going
as far as liking Texas A&M, you're talking about either yellow or red to Texas A&M.
Like during recruiting, all right.
Right.
You know, I want to see. Okay, I know he's got X amount of scholarships, and I can kind of guess. All right, he needs 2 defensive backs, 2 defensive linemen, 1 running back, 2 receivers. So I can pull just the school, and I can see all of the people that he is recruiting,
even if they're not considering him yet.
Well, they would have to probably be considering him.
Yeah,
in
to
some
get him
sort,
on
right? They have to be
some
considering
sort of fashion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
only they're
Okay.
recruiting, but once they are, you know, either yellow or green on them,
Right.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that capability is there now, but you know,
Right, I
it's
can
not
go through
easy,
recruiting.
and that's what
Right.
the headache is. Yeah.
Right. I could go through the recruiting and all right.
Oh, what a nightmare.
1A defensive backs and scroll and scroll and scroll. I just thought it would be easier if just, all right, I can just scroll teams, Texas A&M, and I see all of their people.
Yeah. Now, jhunterz tool provided that. So the capability is there, you know, and that's, you know, that's the one thing I liked about it is it took a lot of the guessing out of recruiting, and it made it more in line with real world. For instance, we don't necessarily know, let's say I'm Arkansas. I don't know what recruits are getting phone calls from Kentucky, West Virginia, USC, whatever. But if the coach is on campus, if they're doing scouting, you're going to know that. That there's no way not to know that if you're a good school, because you've got people out there that report that to you. So to know who's getting the attention is fine, but like Billy said, be able to see if that recruit is actually even considering that school. We hear that from the recruits. We see that from all the powers that be that are in Rivals and all the other recruiting platforms that are out there. And that's the one thing that jhunterz tool did that I really enjoyed, because you could go down to a particular team and see how many scholarships they had. Well, that was the part that worked.
The developers have done, it seems like the new people that are, kind of listening to suggestions and doing stuff. And that would kind of be one suggestion for me, where it's instead of us going through everything, which I would assume a lot of us do, just have a pull down tab for each school and all the people that they're green or yellow on.
Yeah. The capability is there. Like I said, we had it once. Be nice to get it again. And I'm a full believer in when Adam says he don't want people to leave the platform in order to get what they need. He wants to incorporate all those tools and opportunities into the What If Sports site, particularly the recruiting aspect, so that you don't have to go to another website, or you don't have to go to another location or create your own monstrosity of a spreadsheet to get the information you need. So I'd like to see that. That was one good thing that worked on jhunterz tool in the recruiting aspect. There were quite a few others that worked, but that would be a nice one, because that really helps you establish your process for battling if you need to.
I got another one that I think would be pretty nice to have. It's
nobody cares.
Okay. So I hear where Ty's coming from, and I think that would be nice to have. I agree, but I don't know about you guys, but used to, when we could get the raw data, I used to play with the raw data, and I had my spreadsheet set up by position so that I could filter out just what I was looking for by position. You can do that inside the existing tool. The problem is, every time you change position, you have to reset it up.
Yeah.
And there isn't a clear button. You have to basically back out of search and start all over again to clear it. It would be nice, if there was like a clear that you could just hit, a button that you could hit and not have to back out and then come back in. But more importantly, it'd be really nice if there was a pull down box that had each position that you like to recruit. And so if you had specific settings for, like, running backs, for example, you could have a query that you just hit that query and it would bring up the players that you're after, instead of having to retype that in. Now, if you only have one team, it probably doesn't matter. But, for people like you, Majique, that are trying to win a national championship in every world, it would be nice to have that, because I know it wears you out, man, because you got so many other things to do during the day.
What you're talking about is available on that recruiting page.
It is, but you have to reset it every time.
Yeah, with the drop down. And
so if
and that's monotonous.
Quarterback and your minimum strength is 50, and you put strength greater than or equal to 50, and then you hit quarterback, you're going to get the quarterbacks. But as soon as you go to running back, you have to readjust everything on those, versus just being able to hit running back, for example. That's what I'm saying.
It can be cumbersome.
I'm just lazy, Majique.
Sim baseball. The sim baseball would have, all right, well, I need guys with 650 ABs and this many home runs or this on-base percentage, and it's a saved search. So every time I go save one, it only searches for those players. That's what he's talking about.
There you go, Ty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that'd be awesome to have, because, like you said, you can adjust it and leave it.
Run this. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Set it and forget it.
It's a convenience thing. That's all it is. It's convenience.
Yep. Joe Hughes is chatting with us, and he says, yeah, in other worlds, they all have the capability of having those save searches. So, and Adam's aware of that. That's one of the issues that he's trying to tackle, incorporate. Not sure if it's going to be part of the existing GD or whatever that future world is, or that future platform that he's trying to create. But I know good things on the horizon for us, and not just for the people who have been playing forever and ever and ever, but the new folks that are coming aboard slowly but surely. And there's going to be quite a few more of them coming, I'm sure, when all this gets straightened out. Well, guys, look, it's an hour time frame, and that's where we're at. So again, as always, I do appreciate y'all popping in, joining, and keeping me company. And you know, this show is always better when I'm not the one running my mouth. So
Amen.
So Billy, Daryl, Shannon, and Don, who was in the background, he was with us as well. And Wardo popped on, so the farm says it was. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And next week, no show, but 2 weeks from now, This, That, and the Other will be celebrating its first anniversary. So it will be a year. And the first 3 guests were, going from memory here, I think it was P. Weast, old Philip, War Eagle, Eric, and none other than Shannon. So I'm going to see if the 3 of us can get back together on that show to have an anniversary special and just chit chat and discuss where the show has gone. I mean, you know, when it started, it was a podcast. We couldn't see anybody, but we could hear them. And I had really bad internet, and it was really weak, to say the least. And it was a burden to get all that done. Sometimes this is a lot easier, a lot more user friendly, and we've come a long way. And attribute that to the quality of the show having improved because the guests are on, and we can actually see their beautiful faces. So, unless Daryl's on, but you know,
Yeah,
Hey, well,
damn
Matt,
Unabomber.
I don't want to make your ego any larger than it already is, but I think this show is very enjoyable, and I really enjoy it, and I've learned a lot. You've given out, as I've told you personally, way too many secrets, which is not making my life any better. Okay,
That's the whole purpose.
Yeah, well, it's working. It's working.
Oh man, that's what TTATO stands for. Turkey, turkey, A, turkey, O. Hokey, hokey. All right, guys, we're going to close and get on out of here. Love you, mean it. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.